In this video, we're going to show you how to design new poses for your avatar. We start by loading the avatar Tina. We'll put the avatar into a balanced pose. To add a pose, the avatar must have a skeleton structure. That's why we're using one of Browseware's built-in avatars. Adding or editing a pose from an Alvenon or scanned avatars without a skeleton is not supported. The first step in adding a pose is to go to the Pose dropdown and click Add Pose. The avatar is displayed in the form of a skeleton with bones and selectable joints. Each of the small red circles is a selectable joint. In the context view, the Edit Pose panel is displayed. We want to develop a new pose where the avatar's arms are a little closer to the body and the feet are a little further apart. We start by clicking a shoulder joint. The joint is now highlighted in green and the gizmo is displayed. The gizmo has 3 circles representing the X, Y, and Z axis that we can rotate manually. Mostly, we will create our poses freehand. However, by editing the details displayed in the context view of the Edit Pose panel, we can make precise adjustments. We will cover use cases for when we might want to enter rotational values later in this video. When we hover a bone, that bone is highlighted. Clicking the bone selects and highlights the parent joint. To move the bone, we need to move the parent joint. We want to move the avatar's arms in, so we'll click the arm bone connected to the shoulder, and that selects the shoulder joint we need to move. With the gizmo activated for the shoulder joint, we can now grab and rotate any axis to slowly move the arm into the position we want. Great, that is the arm position we're looking for. Next, we click on the hip joint or femur bone. Again, we use that gizmo to reposition the leg. Oops, we made the leg a little further away than we wanted. Not to worry, we can select the joint at any time. In the context menu, you will see the Edit Pose panel. With the joint selected, you can reset by clicking here. Our pose is halfway complete. Now we can make our pose symmetrical. Before we begin adding symmetry, first we should learn to identify the different kinds of joints: center joints, special joints, and regular joints. The center joints are positioned along the spine or the center lines through which symmetry runs. There are 4 special joints in each parametric avatar. They are the 2 pairs of matching joints at the clavicle, also known as the collarbone, and the hip bone. To make the special joint symmetrical, we must use the calculated coordinates. We will cover this shortly. The remaining joints are all regular joints. These you will find along the arms and legs. They have a left and right joint. To make regular joints symmetrical, we can copy coordinates for each regular left joint to match the right joint. Let's look back at our avatar and consider each joint we've modified so far. The shoulder joint is a regular joint and the hip joint is a special joint. We can add symmetry to any others we'd like. Let's start with the shoulder joint. We modified the avatar's left shoulder and now we need to match the right side. Of course, we could start moving each axis, but if we want accuracy, we can input the exact coordinates to make it symmetrical. Let's take note of the coordinates from the first shoulder, the wearer's left. X, 359.9, Y, 320.9, Z, 289.5. To make a regular joint symmetrical, we need to copy these coordinates to the matching joint on the other side. Let's copy the value from each axis of the left shoulder and paste it to its corresponding axis on the right shoulder. We copy X value, 359.9, and type it into the right shoulder X coordinate. The Y value in this case remains the same. We copy Z value, 289.5, and type it into the right shoulder Z coordinate. Shoulders done and nicely symmetrical. Now we need to adjust the right hip to match the left. The hip joint is a special joint, so it requires special calculated coordinates. We note the coordinates from the left hip joint: X, 92.6, Y, 345.6, Z, 177.4. With special joints, we cannot just copy the coordinates. We need to plug the coordinates into an equation. Since we want to make the right hip match the left side, we click the right hip joint. At X, we type in 360 minus X value of the left side, which we noted is 92.6. So we type in 360 minus 92.6. Note that the calculation is done automatically. At y, we type in 360 minus the y value of the right side, which is 360 minus 345.6. At z, we type in the z value of the right side minus 180, meaning 177.4 minus 180. And now, our new pose is completely symmetrical. Let's rename the pose to be relevant. We rename it to Balanced Fit. Click Save and exit Edit Pose. The Balanced Fit pose is now added to the drop-down of available poses to use in the future for reference. When creating a new pose, it is recommended starting from an existing pose that is closest to what you are trying to create. For example, if we want an active pose, we might want to start from an existing active pose. That way, we have less to modify. And if we want a more stylized pose, we would start from a more stylized pose. For example, if we want to create a more fashion pose, we might start with one of the casual poses. From here, we can modify and create more brand-specific poses that will appeal to our teams and customers. We go back into Poses and select Add Pose. Let's change this pose a bit. We start by rotating the elbow joint to make the hand straight. Then, we move the shoulder joint so the arm looks more natural. We rotate the wrist to be more upright and to add a bit more personality to the pose. We move the feet joint a bit to the right. Now, we rename this pose to Casual_7. Now, we have two poses that will be great for our fit sessions and sales meetings. Each pose we create lives within the avatar. When we share our avatars, all our created poses are shared with it. So we can also share our new poses by saving snapshots using the pose and sharing the BW file. We encourage you to play around and have fun, and then delete the poses if you don't need them or don't want to share. We can delete user-generated poses by clicking on the X on the pose icon. Poses that are not user-generated cannot be edited or deleted, but they can be renamed. And that's all you need to know about adding or editing avatar poses. For more information, check out the Browseware Help Center.